Hey YouTube, Smart Home Dad here, welcome back. And today I am going to show you some incredible alternatives to using smart light switches. And we're going to do that with the Lutron motion sensor switch. Now I've talked a little bit about these switches and exactly where I've put them in my house, basically in places where I don't need to have the ability to use smart controls of lights. Now the areas that I'm referring to are the more common areas, I think, like bathrooms, and for example we've used one of these in our laundry room as well. Those types of areas we don't necessarily need to control those lights or have the need to use Siri, for example, to control those lights. Another good example is in my garage, where I have a motion sensor light, as you can see here, with a 3-gang switch setup. As you can also see, we added Decora switches here, these rocker switches, just to make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit more smooth in a 3-gang switch setup, in addition to the Lutron screwless wall plate that we have here, just to make it look a little bit nicer, add a little bit more value to these switches when you look at this when you're coming in and out of the garage. And you'll notice throughout my house I use different plates. In some areas where it's more of a common area where more people will see, we'll use a more decorative plate. And in other areas, like my kids' bathroom right here as an example, we'll use just a standard regular screwed in plate. And those are some of the important things to consider when trying to budget out properly to make your own smart home, whether it's using smart light switches, which can cost $40, $50, $60 depending on the type that you use, or whether you use something like what we're going to install today, the Lutron motion sensor, which goes for about $20 depending on where you buy it. And the other thing that we're going to add with this motion sensor is spending just a little bit more to put a nicer wall plate with the Lutron screwless wall plate that we're going to do here. And ultimately we're out the door for about $25 depending on where you buy this. You could probably get this cheaper online, but this is directly from a local hardware store. So for 25 bucks, I'm going to replace an old dumb on and off switch with a Lutron motion sensor switch and a more decorative Lutron plate. Now it took me just a second to get this plate off, but you'll see here when I do get the front plate off, you'll see the back plate, which is actually what screws into the or what will screw into the actual Lutron motion sensor. That's what those screws are for. So this plate gets screwed into the wall and the Lutron motion sensor will fit right through there, and then the decorative plate clicks right on top of that to make it completely screwless. In opening up the packaging for the Lutron motion sensor, you obviously get the motion sensor itself. It comes with 2 black wires, the live wire and to the actual unit wire, a bare silver wire, and a ground wire. This can work with neutral wires, and it does not have to have a neutral wire, but do keep in mind this is not a 3-way switch. Included in the packaging is 3 yellow wire nuts and screws, and also a great set of instructions that are really straightforward and easy to read. Now with this motion sensor you get 3 modes: auto on and auto off, which is occupancy mode. You can get manual on and auto off, which is a vacancy mode, or auto on daylight sensing and auto off. Although this is not the 3-way switch setup that I'm using today, you can get a 3-way switch version of this, and it actually comes in a whole bunch of different colors. There is an added cost though. Now moving into installing this actual switch, please read the instructions thoroughly. Turn off the power before doing anything. Before you start anything, double check that. And if you're not comfortable with any kind of wiring or anything like that, please consult an electrician. So the first step that we're going to do is remove the old plate and the switch. Generally this is a flathead screwdriver to take the plate off, and then you switch to a Phillips head to unscrew the actual toggle switch itself from the wall. Pull that out and you'll notice that you should have some extra wires, especially if you have a neutral wire. In this case we do have a neutral wire. Make sure that you tuck in everything that's irrelevant to this particular setup. From here, you will go ahead and you can either unscrew the wires from the switch itself, or in this case, it's irrelevant. I'm going to just go ahead and cut the old wires off of the switch to make it fast, and then move into stripping the wires so that you can expose the copper wire beneath that as we connect the actual switch. And so beginning with connecting the actual switch, I like to just start from the top down, plug in the switch the same way that the toggle switch was plugged in. The black wires are not, you can put them in any configuration that you prefer. Don't mind the crazy white light in the background. My son decided that it would be cool to give me some extra spotlight as I was installing this switch because it was a little bit dark. Once you plug in the black wires, you will go ahead and screw on your ground wire to the bare copper wire. And the last step would be to connect the bare silver wire that comes on the switch that's wrapped around the actual switch itself. Connect that to your neutral wires and make sure that you use your wire nuts. Tighten them very, very tight. Make sure everything is tight, nothing loose, and go ahead and tuck everything back into the wall. And when you tuck everything back into the wall, you'll grab your Phillips head screwdriver and go ahead and screw the switch back onto the wall. And this will fit just like the toggle switch, so go ahead and screw all that in. One helpful hint as you do finish screwing this on, don't tighten it all the way to the wall because you may find that you need to adjust it a little bit. Now once you've done that, go ahead and turn your power back on at your breaker box and start programming the switch. Now to program the switch, you have a couple gestures. The first is to hold down on the switch itself to set how long the lights will stay on before they automatically turn off. The next gesture is a little toggle switch just to the right of the switch itself on the actual casing. You'll hold that down for as long as you need it to for programming. And the third gesture is to hold down both that side toggle switch and the switch itself to put it in whatever sensitivity that you want it to be in. And also take note on the screen, these are the different programming settings that will also be on the instruction paperwork as well. So from here, we're going to go ahead and install our Lutron back plate, and you'll see why we left it loose here. Once you screw it into the switch itself, you'll want to adjust it just a little bit, and it leaves you enough room to go in and actually tighten the switch back to the wall. And then just go ahead and double check your back plate as well. Make sure it is all tight, and then the cover simply just snaps on, and that's it. Now, although this is a motion sensor, you can still push the button to turn the light on and off, but as you do come to approach this particular bathroom, you'll see that the light does come on, and after 60 seconds of no motion being detected by the Lutron motion sensor, it will go ahead and turn itself off.
So we started this video by talking about costs, and as you can see here in my house where I have done smart light switches, there's a pretty significant cost and a big difference between where you put smart light switches versus something like the Lutron motion sensor light. And within my house, what I had to do was decide, where do I really need to have smart light switches? And in the common areas and lights that I want to put into different scenes and automations, like when I come home, using motion sensors in the stairwell, outside lights, foyer lights, it makes sense to put a smart switch and invest there. But what you can see is a huge difference in price comparison between where I've used the smart switches and the actual simple motion sensor switches. And so in these areas, I've used a simple Lutron motion sensor switch where we don't necessarily need to be able to control that with Siri or through the HomePod or the iPad on the wall. These are areas I just want lights to be able to come on and then from a smart home perspective, turn themselves off. So it's a great alternative. As you can see, I've got most of those areas done for much cheaper than what it would have cost to do an actual smart light switch. And that'll do it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time. Please take some time to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video today. And if you have any questions or comments, please do leave them in the comments below. And other than that, have a great day. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.